I've been thinking about this next video for a while and I am so excited about it. I am currently on a homeschool break, so we have this whole week off, and when we come back, we only have 4 weeks left before we take a summer break. So we will be doing one more novel. We do our own language arts. I like to call it DIY language arts. And you might have seen videos on here before, but if you have any questions about it, I will link for you. I have a playlist with a bunch of different videos on it, but we like to make our own language arts. Why do that? You might wonder. Basically, it was the freedom. You know, we used all-in-one language arts curriculum before, and honestly, it felt like a chore to get through it. And I just felt like there's got to be a way that I could make language arts more meaningful and more enjoyable and more connecting to what we're learning in our other subjects. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And ever since then, we've been doing our own based on novels, and it has been so amazing. I love sharing about it here, and I love chatting with you guys about it, hearing what you guys are doing at home. It's been so fun. So we're going to do kind of our last novel unit for the year, and I thought that it would be fun to do it together. So here's my thoughts. I'm going to sit with you guys and I'm going to plan the whole thing out. I have not planned one bit. I've chosen the book and that's it. I'm going to take you through the steps of planning it so that if this is something that you want to do, you can kind of see how I put it together. And then I'll let you know what we do each day in our lessons. So this will kind of be a series of videos to kind of walk you through the process. So I have picked the book already. If you are wanting to know how I picked the book, I basically just pick what I want. I use a couple different sources. Number one, I like to look at the Read Aloud Revival list to her recommendations. Number two, I might do some type of historical fiction novel that relates to what we're studying in history. Sometimes I'll pick novels from that. Or I might just pick something that I saw that, you know, people recommended this as a read aloud. So that's normally the ones that I pick. The one I chose for our last unit of the year is The Trumpet of the Swan. I have never read this, so I'm so excited. I have only heard amazing things about this book. People that read it are like, you have to read it, and I've heard it from multiple places. So I am excited to dive into this book. And I think that we'll be able to finish it in the 4 weeks that we have left. So if you'd like to do this with us, there's a couple things that you're gonna need, and I'm gonna set you up for that. But the first thing that you're gonna need is the novel, The Trumpet of the Swan by E.B. White. This first video might be a little bit long as I try and explain some different processes. I will try to put some titles down at the bottom so you can skim through to what you're trying to look for. But I'm going to try and give you as much information as I can to make this easy for you so that you could either do it with us or you could use the same strategies to maybe plan your own language arts unit. Now, if you like an all-in-one curriculum, like you like to be told exactly what to do, the next step, what are you doing each day, then this might not be the best fit for you. I personally am terrible about following curriculum. It'll tell me something and I'll be like, I think I could do it better this way. And that's just my personality. I love the freedom of homeschool, that I get to kind of do what I'm passionate about and teach my kids in a way that makes me happy and makes them happy. So with that being said, let's first talk about the things that you're gonna need for this novel unit. So the first thing is obviously the novel. Check your library, but from what I hear, this is a good one to have on your own home shelf. So I will link it below if you just want to purchase it. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is something for copy work. We're going to base all of the things that we learn, grammar, punctuation, vocabulary, spelling, handwriting, all of these things, we're going to base it off of a passage each week. And so to do that, you're going to need a notebook. This is my daughter's notebook. There is nothing special about it. It is literally just a spiral notebook, okay? I think you can pay like 35 cents for this. If you don't want to buy a notebook and you just want to put it on a piece of paper, like a loose leaf paper, to start out, to try this out, go for it. But you will need something to do that. The next thing you're going to need is a grammar book. Now, I do not make up my own grammar. I think I would be terrible at that. Personally, we have loved Fix-It grammar. So this will be done daily by my daughter, and that is included in this language arts unit. We love this. If you're not familiar with it, she's basically just working on one sentence a day and editing it and then rewriting it correctly. So this is the second level, and we have really, really enjoyed it. Some other grammar that I'm familiar with that might be a good fit for this, if you have younger kiddos like first or second grade or maybe even third grade, you can check out Easy Grammar. They have a setup where, you know, it's just little bits for the day. But basically you can work through the page. It's, you know, each page is one day and you can work through it little pieces at a time. So this one here is grade 1, and I know their grade 2 is set up like this as well. They do have higher level ones, and I did get it used once and thought I would like it, but I didn't. But I still have it, so I will show you. But you can look through this, and this one is basically going to take something and it's just going to be practice for that specific skill that they're working on. So those are some examples. If you are trying this for the first time, you're like, maybe this fits with us, I don't know. Another option is if you are using an all-in-one curriculum. Okay, so I have an old one that we used to have. It was in my donate pile, but I pulled it out to show you. They will usually have a grammar section. Okay, so a couple years back we did learning language arts through literature. This actually inspired me to do this DIY stuff. So I learned a lot from this. If you just open up to a regular lesson, but this here, right here, you can see grammar guide. So you could have your child learn about adjectives. We can keep going to another lesson. Here's some more grammar. So you could pick it out of these if you wanted to, if you just weren't ready to kind of buy your own grammar book yet. So it looks like in this curriculum, they focus on grammar just once during the week. So the way that I'll be doing it is grammar each day, so you can kind of decide how you want to do that. But just trying to show you an example if you didn't want to purchase grammar yet. So that was a lot of options. The point is you need something for grammar, okay? Even like more basic, easy, if you've ever heard of Evan Moore workbooks or like skill sharpening workbooks, you can get them on Amazon. They're like $10 to $15, and it'll literally be grammar grade 5, and it will just have grammar for you to practice. So that is another option as well. Okay, that takes care of the grammar component. The next thing that you're gonna need, I am actually doing something kind of different, but I'm really excited about it. We do one written narration a week. So the reason I have this in there is because I want my daughter to practice writing about what she's reading. We do this a little bit in history when I read aloud to her, but I would like for her to read it on her own and then write a little bit about it. We've been practicing narration for a little over a year now, so she's very comfortable doing this. If written narration is new to you, this might be kind of like a slow process, but I have something fun and new that I want to try. We are going to kind of link some other subjects and do a little bit of nature study on swans. And I'm so excited because I found some really great books. I am going to use some library books in this unit study. This is an optional thing. If you didn't want to do this, you don't have to. But this is going to allow my daughter to read something on her own, write about what she's reading, and it's still going to connect with our novel. So when I get to the narration day, I will kind of go into more detail about these books. But just to kind of quickly show you, I got 2 books of The Ugly Duckling. I might use one or both. I'm still working that out. It depends on how long this goes. I got this book about little swans. This one is kind of a living book about the life of a swan, and it's actually about a trumpeter swan, which is the swan in the story, so I'm excited for that one. And this one is called The Wild Swans. Now, I have not read this word for word. I did scan it. I don't know if you've ever read like fables and fairy tales from a long time ago, but they are not like your Cinderella, Snow White, happily ever after kind of story. They can get a little intense. If you decide to get these books, definitely make sure that you read them on your own and you're comfortable with your children reading them. This is for my 10-year-old, and I do feel like she's going to be able to handle this. I think she's going to be very interested in it, but there are some weird things in there, okay? Put them on hold at your library. Don't feel like you need to go buy them. That's something I'm really excited about, because not only is she going to be able to start practicing writing about what she's reading, she's also going to be able to connect it with the story, because they're all about swans. Last little bit, I have this template, and it is available free to download. I use this template to plan out my passage study. It allows me to record the passage, to record the spelling words and the vocabulary words and anything else that we are going to study about that particular passage. So I'm going to fill this out with you guys, but I will put a link down at the bottom, because this is one thing that you may want to keep for your personal records or just for planning. This is not something that you have to do, but I have enjoyed doing it for our past novels. Okay, we're going to get started. I have actually never read this. As I mentioned, I have not even looked at it. I got it in the mail, and I was waiting for you guys so that we could be on the same page and I could show you that you could do this too. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is pick a passage for the week. I am basically going to skim through the pages that we will be reading this upcoming week and find a passage that I think might jump out at me. So it'll probably be 2 or 3 sentences, but if you have younger kids, you could just do 1 sentence. How do I choose a passage? Well, one, I might choose it because I just like the way it sounds. The language, the beauty of the words, I just really like the descriptions, and I want them to experience that writing. That might be one reason. I might pick it because it's describing a character, and I can really kind of have a conversation about a character in the story. I might also pick a passage because it might have something that we're learning about in grammar. So let's say, for example, in her grammar book, they're talking about ly adverbs. Okay, so that's how her Fix It Grammar labels it. I might find a sentence that I know has an adverb in it, and then we can talk about that. So if I can link it, I might do that. Now, I don't try and do all 3 of those options. I'm just telling you these are some things that I'm thinking about as I'm skimming through. So I'm literally going to open this book for the first time, skim through it, and find something that jumps out at me. I will share with you the passage that I pick, but don't feel like you have to do the same one. If you kind of want to take this on your own, you can do that too. Okay? All right, so here we go. We usually read about a chapter a day, which means in a week, we'll probably get through between 5 and 7 chapters. So that's where I'm gonna look at for right now. Okay, here we go. As I'm looking through this, I'm reminded of one reason I don't pick a passage. I avoid passages that don't follow grammar rules. So for example, a lot of times an author might, like start a sentence with and, or they kind of do things on their own because it's their book, they have the right. However, I won't pick that one because I'm trying to use it as like a grammar lesson, and I want it to kind of follow what we're learning. So that might be one reason I wouldn't pick a passage. All right, let's keep going. Okay, I think I found one. I'm gonna look just a little bit longer. Here's a tip. I always try to set a timer for myself because I could probably sit here and start skimming for a long time. But I always have to remind myself, Jamie, do not think too hard about this. Just pick a passage that stands out to you and go from there. So I have one. I'm gonna spend maybe another minute skimming through, and then if I don't find anything, I'm gonna go back to this one. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my first one. I kept reading and nothing really stood out to me, so I'm gonna go back to the first one I found. It's actually in chapter 2, and it's talking about spring coming. And there's so much pretty descriptive language in this whole paragraph here. So I'm probably just going to pick 2 or 3 of these sentences, and that will be my passage study. Let me read it to you, and then we'll put it in our thing. This says, all the creatures that lived in the pond and in the woods were glad to feel the warmth. They heard and felt the breath of spring, and they stirred with new life and hope. There was a good new smell in the air, a smell of earth waking after its long sleep. All right, so why did I pick that? I like the scene that it creates. I like the descriptive language of spring. I also like, I believe it's personification where they're saying earth is waking up after a sleep. So that's something that we could talk about. I don't always pull out literary things like that, but because I've done this for a while, I start to recognize them a little bit. But I just think that this really can create a good picture of the scene that we're in. So that's what we're going with. Okay, now that we have the passage, we're going to write it in our template, and I'm going to walk you through that. Okay, here we go. So this is the book. This is where I found the passage, and this is that template. The first thing I'm going to do is just fill this out, and I'm going to write that this is the first week that we're going to do this. So this is the Trumpet of the Swan by E.B. White. And then I'll write what day we're going to start it. I'm not 100% certain when we're going to start it, because we actually might start it before we go back to school on Monday. So I'm going to leave that blank for now. And then when we finish it, I'll write that date. Okay, so my passage is going to start here where it says all the creatures that lived, and then I'm going to end it right here at sleep. So I might just put a little pencil writing in there like this. And that way my daughter can copy it from the book, and I will put it in here. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. This is just for my eyes, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in like kid-friendly handwriting. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I went ahead and wrote it down, and I actually changed my mind. I decided to stop here just because I'm going to take off that last sentence. I don't want it to be too long. I want her to be able to write it in 3 or 4 days, and I think if I put another sentence on, then it might take a little bit longer. Okay, now that we have the passage, we're going to pick out our spelling words from this passage. Okay, for the spelling words, I'm literally just going to pick words from this passage. I'm going to pick words that I think are a good fit for my daughter. She is 10 and she is a good speller, so I'm even going to pick words that I think might be difficult for her. I want to challenge her. If you are picking words for your child, you can pick words that best suit him or her. So if you think a word that I put on here is too tricky, don't put it on your list. That's what's so great about this do-it-yourself kind of unit. You get to pick what's best for your kiddo. Okay, so I'm going to go and pick out the spelling words for this passage. Okay, so I'm literally just going to go through. Now, this word all, I would not pick it for my 10-year-old because I know she can spell it. However, if I was doing this for my younger child who's 8, that might be a good word for her to practice. So that's how I kind of go off of this. So creatures is a definite one. I'm going to write creatures down. I'm also going to write lived down. It might be a little bit easy for her, but I think it'll be a good fit. I'm just going to keep going through. Pond. I'm going to use this were. I feel the warmth. There. Herd. It has 2 different spellings. You could do like herd of cattle. So I want to challenge her to make sure she can do that correctly. So herd. Breath. Stirred. And I'll put new on there. Just same thing. It has multiple spellings. I want to make sure she knows the difference. Okay, so from this passage, I got 9 spelling words. Next, we're going to pick our vocabulary words. Some things might be obvious, but it's something that I just want to talk with her about. So for example, the creatures, I'm going to write it right here just because I want to make sure she knows what creatures they're talking about.
I'm going to make sure that she knows what is a pond, you know, because there's lots of different bodies of water. Warmth, what it means in this sentence. Let's see, stirred is another one. So these are the vocabulary words for this passage. Now, this notes section is here for any extra things that we discuss or that might be helpful or that I might think about. I might put in here like the breath of spring is probably personification. I'm going to double check the meaning of that, but I might make a note that we're going to talk about personification at some point if we have time. But I'm not going to do it until we actually get it done. Okay, so this is planned out for the week. Let me kind of go in closer so you can see what it looks like. You have to excuse my sloppy writing as I write kind of crazy. My son is also playing.
All right, this next part of the video, I am going to walk you through what we're going to be doing during the week.
Here is a picture of what we're going to be doing each day in kind of a checklist form. If you want to screenshot this or if you want to pause it and take a picture with your phone, you can choose how you want to do that, but this is what we'll be doing each day.
We are planned out, ready to go. We've got our template filled out. This is going to be our guide this week. And I've given you a glimpse of the schedule. We're going to be kind of digging deeper into that. Let's start with day one. The grammar and copy work is, my daughter is 10. She completes it on her own. You'll have to decide how you want your child to do that. But for us, that would be her fix-it grammar and her copy work. We are at the point where she just copies it from the book. And I have her write it in cursive. And I tell her to write until your writing is no longer at its best. And so I don't want it to be too much to where it gets sloppy. That's kind of our rule. I wanted to kind of show you some other options. If you are just starting out with copy work, sometimes it's nice to do a line yourself and then they copy. So this might be hard to see because it's upside down. But this is my writing and her writing right underneath, and then my writing and her writing right underneath. You can do the same thing with like lined paper, you know, like this. Same kind of thing. You write it and then they write it underneath. This is another option that we've done where I print a copy of the copy work and then I paste a little lined paper down here. We did this to kind of improve her writing a little bit, but now we are at the point where I can just tell her what page it's on and she can copy it directly from the book. So those are just a few options to kind of for you to pick for your kiddo. Okay, so she will get her grammar done and her copy work done on her own. You can see on her schedule for passage review. Basically what that is I am going to read the passage with her and we're going to talk about it. What does it mean? What are the words symbolizing? So for example, all the creatures that lived in the pond, this is where we can bring up the vocabulary. Do you know what a pond is? What do they mean by creatures? And then we keep reading. And in the woods, we're glad to feel the warmth. What kind of warmth do you think they're talking about? So we're just discussing the passage. They heard and felt the breath of spring. And this I might point out, does spring really have breath? Okay, no, it doesn't. This is personification. This is when you give human qualities to non-human things. So I might kind of put that in there. And they stirred with new life and hope. What does stirred mean? So notice I'm literally just reading through this, talking about it, discussing our vocabulary words, giving her the opportunity to tell me. And if she doesn't know them, then we'll look them up. We will also take a look at where is the punctuation, okay? Here's a whole sentence and then there's a comma in there. Why is that comma there? Then there's another period. So we'll kind of just point out where the punctuation is and why it's there. It should be a 3-minute conversation. It's not like this in-depth lesson. Once we go through the passage review, that checks off vocabulary too, because we're kind of doing that at the same time. We're going to do spelling. I'm going to quiz her on the words that I chose. Now, you could literally just say them and have them write them. Or you can kind of get crazy and go do a spelling game. There are so many different spelling games that you could do. You could do it in shaving cream. You could do like a running active game. My kids like to play this game where they write the word, and if they get it right, then they throw a little, I have these math cubes, and they throw it in the bucket, and they do it for points. So they get it right, they get 1 point, then they throw it and they get a bonus point. So we make a game of it, and they play that same game every single time. They love it. So that's how we will do spelling. I will make a note on here. I will probably just put like a little dot or something if a word is spelled incorrectly, so I know to review it throughout the week. Okay, so that takes care of spelling. The last thing on day 1 list is read aloud. This is how we read the book together. I read to my children at night before bed. I just read it to them. We talk about it as we're reading it. We're not doing anything formal or crazy. Reading is just a part of our life, and it feels really wonderful that our casual, fun reading can also be looked at a little more in depth. The read aloud, I will check off at the end of the day after bedtime, and I usually read about a chapter a day. Okay, that's day 1. We're going to move on to day 2. It's actually going to get easier as the week goes on. Same thing, we're going to start with grammar and copy work at the beginning. That will be independent work for her to do on her own. My daughter likes to do it first thing in the morning. You please do whatever works best for you. The next thing is spelling review. If I marked any of those words on the list, I would just say, hey, can you review this word and see if she can spell it? If not, then we'll write it until we get it. Okay, then the new thing for day 2 is written narration. And this is the picture books that we talked about. So for this first week, the book that I'm going to have her read is called Little Swan by Jonathan London. This is a beautiful book. It's actually talking about the life of the swan. It has really pretty pictures, and it's not too difficult of a read. So I'm going to have her read this book. And then she has a narration notebook, but you could just do it on a piece of paper or in the same notebook you're doing your copy work. She will write about what she reads. Now, when she does it, I will have her read it to me. I will not correct it. For this written narration, I have learned that correcting it really just kind of hinders the process. So we save correcting for her grammar workbook. That's where we learn how to correct sentences. At the point in her written narration, I say, okay, you're going to read, you're going to do a written narration, and I'll say, please make sure you have a capital letter and a period or an end mark at the end of your sentence. And so she is responsible for writing it and then reading through and making sure she has those things. Next year, or as she grows, I will continue to kind of challenge her to check for things, but right now that's what we're doing, and it's been working really well. I've really loved watching her writer's voice develop over the last year and a half. For the written narration, that is something she can do on her own. I don't have to be there with her. I just want to make sure and read what she's written after she's done it. And then at the end of the day, there is read aloud. So that night we will read a chapter together. Day 2 is finished. All right, let's move on to day 3. All right, we can look at the schedule. Day 3, grammar and copy work. At the beginning, she'll do that independently. Passage review or catch up. That means I'm going to look at anything that we haven't really covered and fit it in on this day. The reason is because tomorrow, the last day, I'm going to do dictation where I read this to her and she has to write it. So if we haven't covered anything in the last couple of days, or if we struggled with anything, I'm going to review it with her on day 3. Now, some days I don't really need to do anything, so it's just a check off. But other days it might be a spelling word, or it might be, we forgot to look at punctuation when we looked at the passage. Let's do that really quick. That's the kind of thing. Okay, spelling review as needed, that's on there. And then finally read aloud. So you can see as the week goes on, it kind of gets a little bit lighter and lighter each day. So day 3 is finished. Day 4, this is the last day of our week. We have a 4-day school week. We will be starting with grammar and copy work. Same thing, that is an independent task for her. Then when we meet for lessons, we will do dictation. And so what I normally will do is I will take a blank page in her notebook and I will write the date and the name of the book, and I literally will just read this passage off my paper, so I don't even need the book. I read it off my paper and she writes it. Once we're done, I say, you read it first and check and see if you want to make any corrections. Then I read it to her and then she can make any other corrections. Then her and I just go through it and see how she did. And we'll make corrections together as she needs. That is the week. We planned it. I walked you through the lessons. I think this is going to be really fun. I really hope that some of you guys are going to tag along with us. If not, I hope you save this so that you can maybe come to it later. We just really have loved this so much. The freedom is so wonderful. The perfect example is the fact that we are currently reading My Side of the Mountain. We did this, but now we are off of school. But guess what? Our novels that we're reading together as a family, they do not revolve around our homeschool. Our homeschool follows our novels. So we continue to read My Side of the Mountain, but we're not doing any of this. So it's just nice because we just get to do it how we want to. We're not stuck to, oh my goodness, now I have to do this for that book or I have to do this for that book. We just go with the flow. If I need a slow week, like if our week is full of things and I need it to be slow, I'll say, you know what? We're not going to do passage study this week. And we just read the book. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that freedom is just so nice that we are able to do that together. So I really hope that you guys will stick around. Next week, at some point, I will come on and go through our week 2 passage. The video will not be as long because I'm not going to kind of talk about all the things that you need to get set up, but I will walk you through what we're going to do for week 2. I think I covered everything. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If this is something that you want to see more of, definitely let me know. I'm thrilled about this. I don't know if other people are as thrilled as I am. So, give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to see here. But from what I hear, a lot of you are really interested in trying this style of language arts, this freedom of being able to choose what you want and have a flexible schedule with your language arts. Keep me posted and let me know if more would be interesting to you. But for sure, we are going to work through this novel. Oh, one thing I want to mention is we will read this even on not school days. That's what we do. Sometimes I might skip a day during the weekend, but it's just a habit for our before bedtime to read books. I can link you a video. We do a lot of stuff right before bedtime that's kind of homeschool related, but really it's just a part of our life. We will continue to read this as we please. If you really get into it and you are just loving it, you want to read the next chapter, then read the next chapter. I'm not stopping you. Nobody is. This is your free do-it-yourself unit. Even if I pick a passage that you've passed in reading, it's going to be fine. It really is. There's no rules here, and that might make some people nervous, but let me tell you, that's my favorite kind of curriculum. All right, I'm going to be done talking. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Have fun reading.